Welcome to Inking on the Fly with me, Amy Jasper. I am happy to be able to share with you this card that is a floating paper strips card. I've seen these floating around the internet lately, so I thought I would give it another go. I did make one earlier with the June paper pumpkin kit, which you can find on my blog and also on my YouTube channel. But this one is a little more subdued and is using the beautiful In Good Taste Designer Series paper. So let's get to it. For this card, we have a card base that is gray granite. So I'm going to go ahead and just fold that and get that done and out of the way. I love that we have so many various gray cardstocks, grays and beiges and grays, all the things to work with the colors that we have. Yeah, because we need some warm grays and cool grays. Here I have Saffron. This one measures 3.5 by 4 3/4. So that's going to go on my card base. And then we have a piece of basic gray, which is only 1/8 of an inch smaller. So this one is 3 3/8 inch by 4 5/8 inch, I believe, from what I can see on my grid paper. So that one's going to go and matte as a matte with the Saffron. Lovely. I love gray and yellow together. It's so pretty. Okay, next, let me put this one aside. So next, let's work on that paper strips layer. So I have 2 pieces going on here. Here we have the In Good Taste piece of Designer Series paper. I die cut this with the rectangle stitched dies. So that has a beautiful stitched edge all the way around it. And what I'm going to do is just cut it into strips. And we're kind of not really trying too hard to make them the same size. Some of them are going to be bigger. Some of them are going to be smaller. And as I get closer to the end of my paper strips on this, or my piece of paper on this particular cutting tool, I find myself having to be extra careful to make sure that I'm straight, because it doesn't have a little bit of a, like, it doesn't hold the paper at the top, which so shorter pieces of paper on this paper cutter don't work very well. Okay, there's our paper strips. So I didn't try to make them any particular size. You want to keep your stitched top and bottom. So this is the one that has the stitching on 3 sides. And let's find the other one. There we go. So this one has the stitching on, it's hard to see on this paper. It is there. There it is, yeah. On all 3 sides. So those I want to keep. And then all the middle pieces I can use how I wish. So then we have a piece of window sheet. And this one I have cut to be 2 5/8-ish. I think it was a little bit smaller than 2 5/8 by 3.5. So that's the size for that. And I cut it to match the width of our rectangle stitched die cut. So we know that the rectangle stitched top and bottom need to go on there. So I'm going to just go ahead and put those ones on. So I'm using liquid Tombow glue, but whatever adhesive you like works fine. I do like the liquid Tombow glue, as you know, because then I can shift it into position before it dries. So there we have our top stitched piece. So I've just laid it flush with the edges of my paper, my window sheet. Then I have the bottom one to do the same. Oh no, glue everywhere. Glue everywhere. Well, hopefully we can manage with covering most of that up, I think. Most of it. Whew. That could have been messy. So there's our bottom piece. And I've got a little bit of glue. No, not too bad. If I did, I would just carefully wipe that away. A little bit on my paper, on my scrap paper here. So with any glue on the window sheet, you have to be careful. You might end up with some smudging. I think we can get away with it because of the nature of this card. So we'll just go with a hope and a prayer. Okay. So now we have all these glorious paper strips with the stitched edge, just on one on each side. And I'm just going to go and kind of get an idea of where I want them. My goal is to kind of make the wood grain not line up, so out of order for this paper. I mean, if you're using different paper, you may not want it to be out of order. But if it's out of order, then it looks more like kind of like wood planks, which I like. So one of the things, why does this look so super ridiculously crooked? What is happening? It is crooked. You guys, I put that piece on so crooked. I don't think I have, I think it's too dry to shift it. See, I've got it. In my haste to put that on, I put it on crooked. Let's see if I can peel it off very carefully. Oh yeah, it's gonna come off nicely. Good. Whew. Okay, let's do that again, folks. I don't want that on crooked because these paper strips, if you have one that's crooked, it's going to be really noticeable. And that's fine if you want them to be crooked. Sometimes we do, but not this time. So this time I will pay more attention. Get that on straight. It still is very crooked. Okay, so apparently my window sheet was crooked, so that explains a lot. Okay. It was not me, it was my window sheet. Okay, I can trim that window sheet bit off afterwards. Okay, now we can layer these on and decide what order we want them in. Now we're not going to use all of them because this is only 3.5 inches long and this was, I don't know, 4 inches, the whole thing. Plus we're putting in gaps, and fairly large gaps. So that's feeling pretty good, I think. So I've got 2 pieces that I'm not using. I might be able to use those on something else. And then I can go ahead and glue those down, being mindful of those gaps. And your gaps don't have to be even, but I find that with this technique, it's nice to have large-ish gaps. I'm going to use my grid paper to help me carry on making sure this is straight, because that is what I want to focus on, making sure my pieces are straight. The grid paper is fantastic, of course, to help us make sure things are straight. Makes it a little easier to eyeball with the guidelines with the grid paper, especially because I can see through my window sheet, so that makes it nice and easy too. All right. So there we have the start of our paper strip. So right now they look floating, right? Because you can't see the window sheet. That's pretty cool. I like it. This one's a little crooked. I don't know why. Oh well, it is what it is. Okay. Of course it is what it is. That's a weird saying. Everything is what it is. I guess it just means you have to take what you've got, right? So our next step is to tie this lovely black and white gingham ribbon. This is not available to purchase as of the date that I am doing this video. It will be available August 1st, so that's pretty cool. So I'm tying it about, I don't know, I'm going on my third from the top row of paper strip. And this ribbon ties so nicely. Because it is soft, it ties nice and tight. Ooh, that's a big bow. I don't need it that big. Let's shrink that baby down. And then I can kind of slide it, roll it in my fingers to slide it right over to the edge of my paper. Do a little manipulation, get things where or try to get them where I want them. That works. Then I can trim my tails. Give them a nice little angled finish on the ends. And then we're ready for our die cut flower. This is cut using the Meadow dies. And this is the Ombré specialty paper. So this is the Mango Melody Ombré specialty paper. Can you see the shimmer? It's so pretty. I'm going to glue that down on the other side of my paper strip. You can use glue dots. My Tombow liquid glue is so handy and so ready that is where that's my favorite. You know that. You know me. So with Tombow liquid glue, less is more, so you don't need a whole ton of it. So that's going to adhere right about like that. So that the ball of the flower is up there. The ball, I don't know. I have my lovely friend Gerda knows all the names of these flower parts. This part, that's a nice big bulby part. You can put glue under there. So all the larger sections is where I put my adhesive. So cute. So that can go onto our card base now. So what I find with this technique is that Stampin' Dimensionals are a little bit shallow for this card. It pops a little bit better if you use something with a little more lift. So you can choose to use the Paper Pumpkin Dimensionals, are a little bit thicker than Stampin' Up's dimensionals that you can purchase. There's also the foam adhesive strips, which have a little more thickness to them. If you're using just Stampin' Up dimensionals, then you can double them up, and then you'll have that extra lift from that. So I'm just going to use some Paper Pumpkin dimensionals. And of course, you want to make sure that those go behind the paper strips so that they're hiding. And these are the large dimensionals, so I think I'm going to cut some of these. Oh, I have a couple cut already. Just I don't want them to be seen at all, which we never do, right? With dimensionals, we don't want them seen. That's never a thing. I had a friend say it's like the panty lines of card making. That's what dimensionals are. If you see them, it's like a panty lines of card making. I thought that was so funny. All right, I'm going to put one over here. Right there. Just want to make sure nothing's going to droop. That's pretty good. It depends where your paper strips lie and how thick they are. I've only used I've used less dimensionals on other cards. Just depends where the strips land. And of course you could put these paper strips on a card without the window sheet, but the window sheet gives them more structure and makes it a little easier to line them up because you put them on the window sheet first, right? So I am putting this a little bit higher than center, but centered left to right, like so. All right, we're almost done. We have one more element to add, and that is a die. Oops. So I'm going to use, I have this cut from the Messages die. It's one die that cuts a whole bunch of labels out at one time, and it is designed to work with the Many Happenings stamp set as well as the Many Messages stamp set. So this stamp set is also one big stamp. So you stamp the whole thing and you cut the whole thing, all the labels out at once, which is really time efficient, I think. So, and then you have a whole bunch of labels laying around in your craft room just waiting for you to use them. So I have pre-cut the die, which makes stamping it a little bit difficult. Let's give it a go. So I'm going to use the Just Breathe from this set, but I've already cut my label. So this makes it a little more challenging. Oh, I'm going to leave that in there, I think. So it makes it a little more challenging. So what I'm going to start with is my embossing buddy. If you have an anti-static bag, it's always good to use that first because we're going to emboss. Then I have my Versamark ink, so I can ink up that general area of this one large stamp. And because I'm only using the one, I'm going to like be super careful and just lay this on top. I'm keeping an eye on where things are. Lay that on top and hope that this works. If it doesn't work, then I can go ahead and cut a new label and try again. It would be smart if I mean, it would be nice to be able to just stamp the whole thing and do all of them, but I don't have that luxury of time right now to do that. So I think it worked. Okay, and I'll clean that stamp afterwards. So there's the Versamark. So then I can use my white embossing powder. And that will really show you if I stamped that properly. It's always tricky when you're stamping on something so small with a big stamp like that. Oh, it worked nicely. See? Success. We have a few little stray bits. And then I can heat set that. It can be tricky sometimes with heat embossing because you don't want to overheat it, because then you lose some of that gloss and the lift. But you also don't want to underheat it, because of course then you end up with elements or sections that will just brush away. So I think I did it. That looks pretty good. So that's going to go on my card with dimensionals. So when I put this one on my card, I just want to tuck it so that the corner is kind of tucked at the corner of the knot on my card. And being mindful that my words are straight, that's important to me. And lastly, we just have a piece of basic white cardstock just to put on the inside of the card so that we can have a nice surface to write on. And you could go further and put a mat around this white piece, like the Saffron mat would be nice for continuity and with the front of the card. And of course you can stamp something and decorate the inside if you like to. And there it is, a floating paper strips card. Very, very simple, but very elegant. And I love these colors. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you will enjoy making more of these cards and that you will watch some more of my videos in the future. Have a great week.